Hey everyone, it's Jeannie, and today I am sharing this card I created using Ink on 3's pumpkin patch stamp and coordinating die set. So as you can see, the stamp set is just a large image with the pumpkin patch from an overhead view, and I'm stamping it out using Ink on 3's blackout ink because I will be coloring this with Copic markers. I definitely wanted to pull out something fall-like because the weather is finally catching up with the season. It was warm in the city for a while, which it always is. Our summertime is usually when fall starts. And today I really felt the chill in the air, and I just wanted to color up something very fall and festive because we are almost at the end of October and it's super crazy. I'll be coloring this image using Copic markers, doing my usual. I do have a new combination for green. I'm using G28 for the darkest shadows, and then I will be using G24 and G20, which are two new colors to my collection, and I really like it because it provides a muted look for this green. Usually with the G28, I use G17 and G05, which is a bit of a brighter forest green, and I thought that this worked really well for the fall colors. So I will just be doing a bit of a color with me. I know that I haven't been making that many videos recently, and I've been kind of exhausted. I have been doing nonstop DIY projects, nonstop other projects, because I just had a bunch of events happen all around the same time period, so I just haven't had time to really craft for myself and do any videos. So I think mid-August I was in Hawaii, and prior to that I had to prepare all my cards and all my deadlines for my design teams and things like that. So I was busy doing that. Right after I got back from Hawaii, I had to kind of prepare for my brother's baby shower. I was doing a lot of DIY projects, creating games, putting everything together, and I do work full-time. So I just didn't have that much time to do anything else. I was able to do a few design team projects in between that time period, but I still felt like I wasn't crafting for myself. Right after the baby shower, I actually got invited to attend a book fair with one of my college friends. She had a table for her books to promote at this book fair, and she offered me half of it because she was like, I only have one book and the table won't be very full, so if you wanted to sell your cards, you can come by and sell your cards. So I ended up working on creating more cards for that book fair, even though I barely made a dent in my stash. I always have a huge card stash for whenever an occasion pops up, and I also recently donated a bunch of cards for a school silent auction. So my friend who is on the board or something, she asked for a few cards to be donated, and then I let her just bundle them up and price them, and then people just did some bidding on them. I had depleted a bit of my card stash, and I frequently donate my cards too. So I had to create some for the event, and that just took up a lot of time. Even setting up a display, because I didn't want to buy it. That was my first time selling cards, and I didn't find it necessary to go out and purchase a display for something that I might just do one time. So I actually kind of crafted one out of one of those produce boxes that they get at Costco. They put your stuff in there because they don't have bags or anything. So they just fill up those produce boxes, which is what I did. I just kind of covered it up, made it pretty, added little dividers in it, and it actually was perfect for 4 rows of A2 cards. And then I just created card dividers with the different types of cards. My sister totally helped with that, and it was a really cool event because it was only 4 hours there, but I was able to get a few sales, which was surprising to me because I don't sell my cards on Etsy. I just do it because it's fun. It's kind of a side hobby, and yeah, I was really excited that I was able to do that and actually see one of my old college friends. And I still have my display case, which I can keep and kind of have it all organized. If I ever were to sell my cards again, I already have a display box that I can use for any future events. And I actually looked into them, and around my neighborhood it actually costs quite a bit just to purchase a table. I think that there's one event that happens every 3 weeks or so, and it's $75, but it's from 9 to 5. It's all artists. So that's kind of cool that the community supports artists. I just don't know if I should do it again because 75 is a lot for cards that I sell for $5. It's kind of hard because a lot of people don't mail cards anymore and everyone just does emails. So I am still debating whether I want to do that or not. But I think that it'd be really fun to be able to see my cards up in stores and stuff if that was ever a possibility. One of my crafty friends actually reached out, and she has a friend who, or a family member that owns a bookstore. And I have gone to a local bookstore here asking if they were willing to sell my cards, and I do it on consignment, but I never heard back. So I think that I might visit a few local stores, or especially around the holidays, that might be willing to do that and just provide me a little source of income for my supplies and stuff that I use to create these cards, because I think everyone in this hobby knows that crafty supplies, all the items that we buy, is kind of a side hobby. It's like a secondary hobby. Buying and actually creating is like the next hobby that you might have. I'm almost done coloring this image, and I didn't do anything super fancy. I did my usual. I will say that I did leave a bit of white space for the pumpkin and the leaves and the flowers because it just provides an additional highlight without having to use a white pen to create that highlight. And it just gives it a little bit more texture. So although it might look weird while you're coloring it, because I always am tempted to blend everything out to make it smooth, I think that it really adds to the highlights. So as I put this card together, I originally had this other idea of doing ink blending around the image, which you can see I use some Atelier inks, and I use the yellow and the orange just to create that dark effect around the pumpkin. And then I use the Thanks die cut, which I'm just coloring with the same Copic markers that I used for the florals, so everything would match. And when I cut it out, I realized that the sentiment was kind of large for where it would be sitting on my card. And because the pumpkins are really large, it takes up a lot of space. Because I spent so much time coloring the pumpkins, I didn't want the sentiments to really cover it up too much. I was playing around with a different idea of what I wanted to do with this card, and eventually I actually ended up die cutting my pumpkin out, because as I got the sentiments for the Thanks die, it's a large sentiment, and I realized that it just wasn't looking the way I wanted it to, and I couldn't manipulate it so it would fit nicely on an A2 card panel without cutting it out. I went ahead and used the die cut to cut it out, and I then switched course completely, because once I die cut it out, I realized that I got some ink on the white outline, and I didn't love that. So I went in with a Copic black marker and actually colored up the white spaces. So there's no crazy black lines that prevent you from doing this, and it actually is a really clean look once you put it on top of black paper. So it almost looks like I Copic colored and either fussy cut it, or like I had done it directly on the black cardstock. I strayed away from that colorfulness that I originally had wanted. I thought that this worked out really well. So you can see that the pumpkin sat right on top of the black cardstock, and it looks perfect. It looks like I fussy cut it. I also decided to add an additional sentiment. So it says, "Thanks for your kindness." I had Copic colored my paper so I would match the sentiment, because I thought that if I used white, it would be way too stark. I just glued down the pumpkin on a piece of black cardstock, and I went ahead and glued down all my letters for that Thanks die cut. I realized that I had glued it kind of not straight because I didn't use the outline of the die to put it down, but it's fine. It works, and I don't think anyone will notice really. I even used a ruler, so I don't know what happens. Sometimes things shift and you just don't notice. I added the sentiment letters, and then I added my sentiment strip, and this is more or less my card. I decided to trim it down just a little bit and mat it on a color cardstock that was very similar to my Copic colors, and I thought it pulled everything together nicely. This is my little trick where I just have the release paper sticking out, and I get to line it up, and then once I line it up, I'll pull that release paper and it will be on the card. So that's it for my card for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time with more videos. Bye!